Okay, so I hope by now you've seen the performance to psychic ability versus coincidence. It'll make this tutorial much more easier to understand. Now, first of all, I'll get right into the setup for the trick, and then I will get into the details on how to perform this to minimize any suspicions of a setup. So first of all, what I've done is I've devised a code system between each card. Now, if you've noticed in the performance, after the cards were shuffled and cut, I seem to be able to, read most of the cards, even though I had some misses, of course. Now, for every card that I read, whether I miss or hit, the card I flip up, the last card I flip up on the table, is actually an indicator card to what the next card underneath the packet will be, what the next suit will be under the packet. Now, to set this up for this code system, I'll get into first. I'll set up an even card. So for all even cards, you're going to look at the values of the cards, and you'll notice that this card being an even card and a black card, what that tells me is the next card will be the same color as this indicator card. So any even card will tell you the next card will be the same color of whatever the even indicator card is. Okay, so to decipher precisely what suit, now of course it's going to be a black card next, so which suit is it going to be? Well, we look at the value and see if it's a low value or high value. If it's a low value, ace through 7, or a high value can be, the low values are ace through 6. The high values are 7 through king, okay? So this card being a low value is 6, ace through 7, or ace through 6, sorry to confuse you. Ace through 6 are the low values, okay? Being that this is a 6, that tells me, first of all, it's an even card, so the next card will be black. The fact that it's a low even card tells me that the next black card will be the opposite suit of the indicator card, so it will actually be a club. Okay, now let's place a club down here. I'll get a high club. Okay, so now say for instance we have an even high card this time. Now again, being an even card tells us that the next card will be the same color, so we know the next card will of course be black. Now being that it's a high value, 7 through king, we know then that the next suit will be the exact same suit as the indicator suit. So we know the next one will be a club now. So now we'll get into the odd cards. Now again, you can place any suit you want as your next card as long as it matches with whatever the code reading is for the indicator card. It doesn't matter what value you use next. So now, being that this is an odd card, tells me that the next card is actually going to be the opposite color. Unlike the even cards where the colors are the same, the odd cards tell you that the next card will be the opposite color, so of course red. Now, which suit of the reds is it going to be? Again, it's deciphered by looking at the value, if it's a low value or a high value. In this case, being a low value, ace through 6, we know that, I know then that the next suit is going to be a heart. And the reason I know that is, what I've done is I've set up a code system where I have, for the odd cards, I have what I call a suit default pairing. Okay, a default suit pairing. What that means is the default suit pairings for the odd cards are hearts and spades or clubs and diamonds. Okay, or it can be reversed. It can be spades and hearts or diamonds and clubs. Those are the default pairings for the odd cards. Okay, now if it's a low odd card, that tells me it will not be the default pairing. So the next red card, because it's an odd card, tells me that the next card will be red. I'm not going to be choosing, it will not be the default red suit pairing for the club, which would normally be a diamond. It's actually going to be a heart. Okay, so I'll run through that again if that sounds confusing. So the next card is a heart. So here we have another odd card. Again, the odd card tells us that the next card will be black. Now, because this is a high value, 7 through king, that tells us that we are actually going to be using the default pairing with this suit being a heart, the default pairing, like I mentioned before, is a spade with a heart. So spade will be the black card that will be next after this high odd card, you see. Again, we have another high odd card. This time it's a spade. Now, that again, being an odd card, it tells me that the next card's a red card. Being that it's a high odd card, tells me that we're going to be using the default pairing with a spade is a heart. Okay. Now I'll do another low odd card this time. So now we have, again, of course, an odd card, which tells us it's going to be a black card next. Also tells us that being that it's a low odd card, we will not be using the default spade to go with the heart. We're going to be using the opposite black suit, which of course is the club. So that's next. Run through a couple more here. We've got a high odd club that tells us the next card's a red card, and being that it's a high value, that the red card we'll be selecting next is the default suit to go with a club, which is a diamond, so we set a diamond. Now we have an even card that tells us that the next card is going to be a red card, the same color, and because it's a low value even card, the same color is going to be the opposite suit, which is a heart. And lastly, I'll just do this one quickly. The high even card tells us, again, an even card tells us that we're going to have the same color card, which is a red card. And being that it's a high even card, tells us that the red suit will be the same suit as this indicator card. So we can place any heart down. And you continue setting the deck like that. And you just, what that does, again, it's designed to seem that you have a completely random setup of suits. So when you call the suits out, the spectator will not suspect any kind of pattern to it. So that should minimize any suspicion of a setup. Okay, so once you've set up the deck like that, when you've set up, face up like this, all the way up, what will happen is you might have a few cards left that don't continue the sequence properly. And all you have to do then is just to fan through the cards, and you can easily find spots to have these odd cards fit in your sequences, in your coded sequence. Okay. Now what will happen too, most likely, is the bottom card and the top card will not continue the sequence properly, which is fine. That's no big deal. There's nothing much you can do about that. And if you come across one of these cards, you'll have probably a miss, which is fine, because you're going to have a few misses anyways in this trick. Now, one last important thing to note: after you've set up the deck like this, face up, you want to turn the deck over, and you want to deal all the cards face down through the entire deck to reverse the order of the cards, because you're going to be calling out the cards, of course, from the bottom up, and you want to be able to call in that order based on your coded setup. Okay, so that's what you do. You reverse the entire order of the deck, and then you move on to, you're ready to start the trick. Now what you're going to do, it relies on having the spectator believe that the deck can be thoroughly mixed. Now to do this, what you want to do is you're going to sort of force the spectator to overhand shuffle the deck, because this trick will only work based on an overhand shuffle. But you want to give the impression that the deck could have been shuffled in any way, and the fact that they get to shuffle the cards themselves should impress upon them that the cards could have been just mixed in any way. But what you do is you present the trick. You don't actually say what you're going to do in the trick yet, because if you tell them that you're going to be reading the cards, it might incline them to want to do a more thorough riffle type shuffle to make it more challenging for you. So instead, just say you're going to do a little experiment. You show them the cards, that they're generally mixed, and you can start off by doing just one quick little brief overhand shuffle to say that the cards can be mixed, and then that just sort of leads the spectator to start thinking on the same lines as you as to how to shuffle the deck. And you can also reinforce the idea by handing them the deck and saying, okay, now I'd like you to further overhand shuffle the deck for me, please. And then, because they don't know what you're doing next, this will be no problem. They're just going to listen to your instruction, most likely, and do an overhand shuffle. And make sure that they only overhand shuffle the deck for about 4 or 5 seconds. You don't want to go much longer than that. And then that should be good enough, and your trick should work quite well. You'll actually have at a minimum about a 60% hit rate at the absolute minimum, but most likely you will have about a 70, even up to a 90% hit rate, which can happen quite easily. So it should be quite impressive. Now, in the instance that the spectator decides to be difficult and they insist on riffle shuffling the cards, that's fine. Just let them do that, and then just move on to a different trick, another impromptu trick you have in mind. So have a trick, backed up for that, just in case. Plus, if you're going to be using this trick as an opener anyways, as a warm-up type of effect, which is recommended, it should be used as that, then you'll have another trick ready to go anyways, and you can just move on to that trick you were going to do, should they, mix the deck, riffle shuffle it. Okay, so now you proceed with having them cut the cards, and they can set the upper portion down on the table, and then you can remove the bottom portion off to the side, because you're going to attempt then, of course, to read the cards from where they've cut, and you reinforce to them that they've shuffled the cards. It's really important that you remind them that, so that they have it in their minds that the cards are totally mixed, and that there's no way that you could possibly see the bottom card, and that there's no way that there could be any kind of markings or anything to give you any clues to what the card is, because it's obviously tucked away, squared away in the bottom of the packet. Now, to start out, you're going to just pick up on the colors of the cards, and this gives you a 50-50 chance of getting the color right, just to come off to a good start. If you get it wrong, no big deal, you're just warming up. But the thing is, you don't know what the first card is yet at the bottom of the packet, so it's good to start by, impressing upon them that you're going to pick up on the color of the card. So in this case, let's just say you're just taking a guess. You're just going to say, okay, I'll say a red card. So you look, okay, it's not, you're wrong, that's fine. You just use this opportunity to say, okay, just warming up here, but what I'll do is I'll put my miss pile here, and I'll put my hit successful cards here. And then you move on, you look at the suit, or this card, and you know what the next suit's going to be, but you're not going to move in just yet into the suits. Just play along still that you're trying to pick up on the color, so it's not too obvious that you're using this card to pick up on the suit. So just play a couple more cards for just the colors. So because you know the next suit, of course, then that tells you what the next color is going to be. So in this case, I know that this is an odd card. The next color means that it will be a red card. So then I can say red, and then, well, I'm wrong because I don't have these cards set up, but in most cases you'll be right, and then you can set the successful card down in the successful pile, and again you look at your last card you've flipped up. That will give you the clue to what the next card's going to be. You do that color, and then you can move on to honing in on the suits and continue from there. So that's how the trick works. Now, if there's a slight chance, like I showed in the performance, I remixed the cards halfway through calling them. And I did that for the purpose of, I just wanted to show you what can potentially happen should the spectator request, and it can happen quite easily, that they might want you to remix the cards in the middle of the trick. That's fine. What you can do is just pick up the packet, and when you mix them, just make sure you do an overhand shuffle, shuffling one card at a time. So you're just rotating the cards. But it looks to them that you're just giving them a quick little mix. Do that for about 7 or 8 cards, and then depending on how many cards you have, of course, it doesn't really matter. You're just rotating the cards. So you set the packet down and then continue from there, and you should be just as successful with the hits as you would have had you not have shuffled them. Now, again, based on the experiments I've been doing with overhand shuffles in this setup, I found that a good 5-second overhand shuffle will give you about a 60% successful hit rate for this trick. But like I said, it can average out to up to about 70 to up to almost 90% a successful hit rate at sometimes. So it can look quite impressive. So anyways, that's the trick, and I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching.